What is up, everyone? This is Barnes in the Belfry, and today we're starting a new set of videos that kind of launches out of our last series, which was on biblical inspiration, how we talked about the best way to approach the Bible so that it says what it says and it means what it means. We, as a culture, are not great at letting verses live in their cultural context, in their textual context, in the context of the storyline. We seem to think that the book is so true that every verse can stand on its own. We can just pull it out, stick it on a poster, stick it on a coffee mug, stick it on a youth group t-shirt, and somehow it can just be what it is. We can just let it say what it says. And hey, truth is, sometimes it does. But in this series, what I wanted to do was talk about those times when it doesn't, when we think it does, but actually the scriptures are saying something else. And maybe in the course of these videos, it can be instructive as to how to straighten out our way of thinking about how we should be approaching these verses that become so popular in the church. So what I wanted to do was start with one that I grew up with. I heard this one all the time. I'm gonna let my Jesus movement buddy, Keith Green, introduce it.
This is a day that the Lord has made, that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it, and be glad in it. Oh.
Thank you, Keith. We know this verse. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I've heard so many worship leaders start services with this psalm. It's Psalm 118, verse 24. Very popular all through my childhood. Maybe some of you haven't even heard this song before. This is definitely an 80s and 90s classic. We know what we mean when we use this verse. We're basically saying that every day is a gift from God. We need to rejoice in that. We need to celebrate in that. We need to see it as a new opportunity each day to take full advantage of the life that God has given us with each new day. We know this. This is kind of a poetic way of thinking about it. If I want to be facetious with this verse, I could think, how does God make a day? Is it like I fall asleep on a Tuesday and then God's like, all right, angels, time to get to work on Wednesday. John loves sunset, so I'm gonna paint this amazing sunset. It's gonna be like breezy through the day. Sometimes it needs to be hot, sometimes it needs to be cold, but tomorrow John needs a cool day. And then at night, full moon, baby. We're going full moon, and they start to work on it. And then I wake up, and it's an amazing day that the Lord has made. God doesn't make days. Well, you could say God makes all the days because he sticks a sun over here and a planet over here, and then you spin the planet, and then you get days and nights that go on and on and on until the planet stops spinning. And depending on what side you're on, you get night or day. God's not in the business of making days. But we kind of know what it means, and hey, it's a psalm, right? It's supposed to be poetic, so let's not be too scientific about this first. Hey, I'm just as guilty as anybody else, but why don't we look in the passage to see what Psalm 118 is about? If you just start at the beginning of this psalm, it seems very appropriate because it sounds like something a worship leader would start a service with. It says, "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Let Israel say, his love endures forever. Let the house of Aaron say, his love endures forever. Let those who fear the Lord say, his love endures forever." It's supposed to be for the people. It's a worship leader kind of psalm. And basically the whole psalm is about celebrating God's faithfulness, his salvation, the fact that we know he will always be for Israel and support Israel. Then we get to verse 22. "A stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This came about from the Lord. It is marvelous in our eyes. This is the day which the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Please, O Lord, do save us. Please, O Lord, do send prosperity. Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord." The little Jesus alarm should have gone off while I was reading this, right? Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. That's Palm Sunday. The stone the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. We know this is messianic. This is a psalm. This is written long before Jesus. So the day the Lord has made is actually a day in the future. So we think has made, we think the past or the present, right? The Lord has made this day. But according to the psalm, he's preparing a day. This is the day the Lord has prepared, right? Will accomplish. It's not a day like a Tuesday, but it's a day where the Messiah arrives. It's Palm Sunday. That's the day the Lord has made. that Israel is rejoicing in. It's about a prophecy. It's not about every day is a gift from God. There are plenty of verses we could use to say that, and we could stick that in a coffee mug. But why are we pulling out a verse that's about Jesus on Palm Sunday and using it for every Sunday? This is just a way that we can kind of mangle the scriptures, kind of butcher it. The whole point of this series is to steer us toward paying attention to the context, because then these verses can become so much more meaningful. And then we can decide, is it appropriate to borrow this scripture to start our services? Or maybe we should just start in verse 1 and do it that way. Let's be appropriate. So if you have verses where you're saying, hey, John, what about this verse? What about that verse? I want you to stick those below and follow along in this series. And let's look at scripture that we just seem to get wrong. And hey, maybe we're getting it right, but at least we can take a look. All right, I'll see you next time.